Welcome back to the Financing Simplified Podcast, where today let me start over again.
Absolutely.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Welcome to the Financing Simplified Podcast with Anthony Venuto. If you're looking for answers to your financial questions, let Anthony and his network of friends and associates answer regular questions that regular people have about their money. Thanks for tuning in. It's time to start simplifying your finances.
Welcome back to the Financing Simplified Podcast. This week, I have the honor and privilege of bringing on Mr. Mike Guerra from the Guerra team. This week, we're going to be talking about a couple things that are really important. I know a lot of our viewers are concerned and they have some questions around what's happening with the National Real Estate Board in the U.S., how that's going to trickle through here into Canada. Obviously, talking about the current market and the Bank of Canada that has its meeting and what the outcomes are going to be looking at the market. But first, I want to turn it over to Mike. I want to say thank you for coming on today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got in the industry, your market, what you specialize in.
Yes. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me on the podcast, Ant. I'm grateful. But yeah, I service the South Simcoe County area. I work with RE/MAX, and that covers like Agila to Sorrento, which is Everett, Colgan, Lisle, a bunch of small pockets, and then Alliston, which is part of New Tecumseh, Alliston, Beaton, Tottenham, which are popular areas, and then surrounding areas, Barrie, New Lowell, Clearview, and whatnot. But yeah, I've been in the business for 8 years now. I think I was licensed in 2016. And yeah, just, love it. I came from a background of vending machines. I had my own vending machine business, but that's a whole other podcast we can talk about.
I did want to take an opportunity to say thank you for the gratitude coin. This is really a nice sentiment, actually. So is this something you came up with? And
yeah, it is. I've been a big believer in gratitude, probably practicing it for the last 20 years. Looking into it, reading books and everything. And I came up with this concept maybe a year ago. It's called Gratitude Tribe, and I created this gratitude coin. I used to have like a gratitude rock that I used to always hold and think of things I'm grateful for and stuff. And I just thought, you can't really carry around a rock when you're around, unless you want people staring at you funny. So I just created this coin, and I keep one in my pocket all the time. And, before a meeting or an interview or something, I also interact them with my clients, ones that are into it. You start to feel them out if they're into gratitude and practicing gratitude, and I give it to them and they love it. So it's just been something that, it's like a little side thing I created.
Absolutely. No, I think in this environment right now, there's a lot to be grateful for. I think as we push forward, we're talking a little bit off camera about obviously now that the carbon tax is in and all these changes that are happening right now, a lot of people are, feeling the pressures from obviously the inflation, the cost of goods. And I always think it's nice to be thankful for what we have. It's easy to be, look across the grass and say, hey, things are greener there, but
yeah, there's a lot of negativity out there, I guess. Whenever you turn on the news, things are going up, costs are so much, and you got to stop sometimes and just be grateful for the things that we do have. Yeah, so that's kind of where that came from.
There is a lot of negativity, Mike, in the market right now. I see these conversations. I'm assuming you feel the same when you're interacting with clients. It's and what's going on? Should we buy? Should we sell? I mean, what's happening with these changes that we were talking about with the U.S. real estate, the lawsuit that's coming down their pipeline, how it's going to impact Canadians? Because we do get that question. Ultimately, I'm not in the industry, right? I don't know the inner workings of it. I know a little bit about it, but we'd always want to hear from someone who's actually living and breathing that experience and talking about the decoupling of, I guess, the commissions. Is that what it is? Maybe you can shed some light.
It's a big lawsuit that was going on, against the buyer commission, so people were saying, we've been paying buyer commissions and we shouldn't have. So I think it was like one of the lawsuits was 50 million. I think RE/MAX settled. And then another one, I think the NAR one is the big one, 400 and something million. So basically they're changing the law now where you can't advertise paying a buyer commission in the States, and the big question is it going to trickle down here? We don't know, but it's definitely going to affect, who pays the buyer commission. Is it the seller? Is it going to be the buyer? How are they going to do it? It's definitely going to open up a lot of, they say new companies that might come in and have flat fee buyer services. So it could open up a whole new world of real estate, on that side of the border, and might trickle down here.
Well, as I said, we speculate right now because we really don't know how it's going to play out. But just for our viewers that are maybe not familiar with it. So right now, in a regular transaction, right, what happens is there's the one commission, let's call it average, they say 5%.
Yeah.
within that 5%, there's a buyer and co-op portion. They split that, right?
2.5 each.
Let's say
usually.
2.5 each, right? Whatever the case is. Now they sort of chop that. Now, is this under the new, or sort of what's happened in the US, that they have to advertise or they don't have to advertise what it is? Or how does that work? Because right now I think there's that decoupling, right? When you hire an agent, right, there's the fee, the cost to sell. But the buyer usually just pays that as part of the one chunk of that commission, right?
Yeah. So basically, I believe the sellers can still pay a buyer commission. They just can advertise it.
Mhm.
So they'll have to discuss with the buyer agent and say, okay, my seller is paying out 2.5% or 2% or whatever it is. But yeah, I believe they can't advertise it as it stands right now. And again, more changes may come as the thing evolves. It's still going through the courts and whatnot, but only time will tell.
So this opens up the door, as you mentioned, for a lot of other things to come down the pipe. And I think, ultimately, is it a good side story? Is it a good story? Is it a bad story? I think, how is it going to work? We were talking about that blind bidding and all this other stuff that was supposed to come down the pipeline with I believe the Liberal government's HomeBuyers charter. But looking at it, it's like, okay, how does that work now, right? Like, if you're thinking about those commissions, right, that you're not disclosing it, when would the agent that's bringing the buyer to the table find out about that? Like, how would that work? Because right now and as I said, we're having an honest and open conversation. Some people I know, I see this all the time, and say they're only looking at that property, or they only lead their clients into that property if it's paying out a certain healthy commission.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens now when that's not disclosed? Is it going to be more transparent? That's, I guess, the idea is to have that transparency.
Yeah, it's hard to say. If they're going to factor it into the buyer, paying the buyer commission, if the seller is going to pay it, I guess they have to have a conversation with the buyer agent and say, okay, what are you paying out? But yeah, I guess if it's not advertised, it's really hard to say. You're going to have to show your client the house. They shouldn't be leading away from properties anyway. So it is going to, be more transparent, because if you want to see a property, you see a property, and if the client likes it and wants to put an offer, well, you got to help them regardless of what the commission paying out is, right? It's even now, if I show a client a house and, there's the discount brokerage is paying 1% out, it is what it is. If you got to service your clients the best you can. So if I'm showing a house, whatever the commission is what I'll get. You know what I mean? And they shouldn't be steering away because it doesn't pay 2.5%.
I agree with you on that. I think this is where you separate, the saying, you separate the men from the boys.
Yeah.
And the experienced agents are still going to work with their clients, because it's that relationship building that you're going to, proceed forward with. But I think the question is that a lot of our clients are like, Ant, is this going to sort of work out where the potential, the buyer could be paying this? Like, as I said, speculating, as we don't know, would the buyer be on the hook for the commission for that agent? Because right now, when a buyer hires an agent to represent them on the transaction, they don't pay anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So could this lead down the path where, hey, all of a sudden the buyer has to pay?
There was questions about that. The only thing is, if they do pay, apparently you can't get financing on the buyer commission. So it would have to come out of pocket,
right,
beforehand. Right. Or when it closes, however they decide on that. So there's a lot of questionable things. Again, only time will tell how it's going to unfold, but hopefully it moves into the direction that's beneficial to the customer.
Well, we'll be covering that topic on the podcast as we get the more information comes to light. But also, it's even like talking about the mortgage transaction, talking about the financing. You find a lot of buyers are already like limping in. Like, how would this sort of impact the global picture of the real estate sentiment, like the environment? Imagine now all of a sudden, like, buyers are saying, okay, I got 15% or I got 20% or 25% to put down. And they're already struggling right now with these higher interest rate environments.
But, again, time will tell.
You said something really interesting there. And I think this is like the age old debate, is the correlation between interest rates and home prices. I seem to be, getting comments and hearing conversations, emails saying, hey, we're in a different environment right now. But I do believe there's no way to decouple interest rates and home prices, in the sense of, we've seen it time and time again. I've been in the industry now for 15 years, and it's always been that as soon as interest rates come down, all of a sudden, the sun shines, and all of a sudden everybody gets all perky, and they want to go out there and they want to buy a home, and they're just looking at that affordability component, which, as we know here in Ontario, at least in Vancouver, absolutely at the worst, it's been and at least from that I've ever seen. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's been probably worse before my time, but right now, how are you finding buyers? Like, what are you seeing right now in your market, especially because you're, a little bit further north of the city?
Yeah.
Things are a little different.
Yeah, I'm finding, slowly, December was slow. Last year was slow. We were down 43 or something percent sales. Everybody was slow. Everyone felt it. It wasn't that slow in who knows how many years, they said. But then we started to see things slowly pick up. January, February, a little bit. March was okay. And everyone's now hoping that, April, they're waiting again on the interest rates. I think a lot of buyers are on the fence, just waiting to see, are the rates going to come down a bit? They just want to see some relief, and I think then, they say the floodgates are going to open. I don't know if it's going to be that crazy of a surge, but I think more buyers are going to come out that were on the fence and waiting, for those rates to come down. So, we're hoping. What I've seen is, I'm getting a lot of buyers that are from the city want to come up there because they can sell their home for, X amount of money. Come up where I am. Prices are generally a little lower and, the further north you go. So, they come up there and they put a few bucks aside and they buy a nice house. So, I'm still active with some buyers and not as busy as it was during the COVID days. But again, that wasn't normal, right?
No, those were anomaly years. And I always tell people that was just like a blip in the radar, like in what was happening. And I always said, you always have to take that moment in time and say, okay, if you saved, you're able to take advantage of these situations, the rates, obviously what the government was doing, everything in that time frame. But like you mentioned, moving further north, there's more bang for buck.
Yeah.
Right. You're getting a lot of clients right now that we're seeing, at least this is from our position here at our brokerage, all detached homes. They're looking at that move to go from a condo to either a semi or a detached single family home, single car garage, because I feel like they're not building them. Like, I don't know what's happening in your area here, whatever the developers sort of had allocated, like whatever projects were approved are on the fence. A lot of projects that we know here, at least in Vaughan where I am, once they're done, there are a couple of homes that they have left, they're packing up shop and they're not going to be building anymore. Yeah. Or at least they're not going to be building those single family homes.
Yeah. Well, I think the projected thing that they need for homes, I think, is 1.5 million homes by 2031 or something is the number. They're not even near hitting that, and like you said, a lot of builders, when interest rates are higher, a lot of the money that they use to build, is on credit and lines of credit and whatnot, and it gets too costly for them and they can't, keep increasing their prices because someone's not going to go and pay X amount for a brand new build when they can buy a resale for a fraction, less, right? So it makes it tough. So I think they got to ease off on the rates and get the builders building again,
In your area, are you noticing that there's a lot newer construction happening, or would you say that it's still predominantly resale?
In my area, it's mostly resale. There are some new developments going on. There are some in the plans, but like for example, Everett has a plan for a couple thousand homes, but they've been working on that since we moved up there 10 years ago, right? So it's they keep pushing it off. They are going to come, but who knows when, right? But Beaton's got some new development. There is some projected again for new Tecumseth. I know Colgan, which is part of Agila, they just built a bunch of Tribute, I believe, built a bunch of homes there. But again, it's nothing like in the city here. Like you guys have a lot more new construction than we do.
And what I find with the new construction, it's like, I always try to explain this. It's those homes are generally already spoken for, right? Like, so someone's going in there, they're buying that on paper, they're putting the deposit down. So it's not like that inventory for a lot of first-time home buyers, that inventory is already spoken for, right? You're not getting that turnover. And if they're not building enough of the homes, I think I was just reading a stat that we just started off 2024 was a big boom in new housing starts, right? And obviously the question is, what types of homes are they building? Are they building condos? What types of homes are they constructing? But it's also in conjunction with, 1.2 million new Canadians that arrive. And on a good year in Canada, we're building just under 300,000 homes a year.
Yeah.
And you're bringing in, even with the reduction right now, they're talking about capping foreign workers and student visas and all these basically non-permanent residents, but they're still going to be bringing in 300,000 to 500,000 people. And if they're only building 300,000 homes, the numbers just don't make sense. And this is, I always say, it's simple economics, supply and demand. And now you add into the mix, ultimately, who's going to be able to afford and qualify for these homes? Are the builders going to want to build homes that are more expensive. Like that's I don't even know what so for example, if you were to give us a range or just an estimate on, let's say, moving further north, what is the average price of a home? Like what would something like a single detached to town or semi start at?
In Alliston, New Tecumseh area, I believe it's in the mid 800s for a detached is the price now. Now again, during COVID, that was up there close to the million mark. But everything was crazy then. But it's come down. So yeah, your dollar stretches. The price of a townhouse in the city here, you could buy a nice detached, 2-car garage, 2,600 square foot home. Where we are. So a lot of people are catching on to that. The only thing about moving further north is the commute, right? If someone works in the city, they call it a bedroom community because 80% of the people that live up there commute, right? But if you can get a job up that way or you work from home or whatnot, then it's a great option, definitely.
No, I definitely agree because I did actually move from Bradford. We came back down because of work and stuff like that. We figured the commute was absolutely crazy. But then ultimately, 2020 hit, right? And everybody was like, I can work from home. If you had that luxury to work from home, take advantage of that situation and sort of say, hey, I can do this. But it's crazy to think $800,000, right? Somebody might look at that and say, I see that as an entry level home, like someone saying, hey, 800,000, that's actually not a bad price. Someone's going to look at that and say, oh my Lord, right? Like that is crazy to pay. Like, and I talk to clients all the time, like we're looking at it going, your entry level for what you're looking at is over, if at least in Vaughan in the GTA, you're probably looking at over $1 million. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's much inventory for a lot of clients that are looking to go sub $1 million in this area, which, as you know, for the insured side of things, for clients that are coming in with less than 20% down, it's impossible.
And the mortgage is it's huge. I know.
And do you think the incomes are at that level, right? That's the other question we're talking. There's a lot of things that we've been talking about, like with our investment circle, some of our network, the big wealth transfer. Like, are you noticing from your buyers, are a lot of them coming in? Are they move up buyers that are coming that where they've, as you mentioned, sold their property, come into a whole bunch of their equity now is in cash. Now they're putting it down their home. Is it parents that are gifting money to their children to say, hey, we want to give you an early inheritance. We want to see you enjoy this money while we're still here and get you settled into your new home. Or like the other side is a lot of younger financially savvy individuals that we've talked to, they've started to put that money aside. Like, I believe we're turning that coin where a lot of young individuals are starting to save more money. Or how are you seeing your clients up where you are?
With me, it's a mix. It's a mix of all the above. I've had people, that have, want to do a move up or move down or move sideways. And then I've had people, from the bank of mom and dad, I think, Stefano, that's what we called it. So, if the parents these days, they have to help out the kids in a lot of situations. Cause where does someone come up with 100, if the average home is 800,000, you need 20% down, it's 160,000, right? It's a lot of money. So, the kids try to save some and then the parents help them out. They want to see their kids buy a house. So I've had a lot of first-time buyers that I've helped, get their first home and whatnot in the area, again, because it's more affordable. And like you said, they can't touch anything down here in the city, and so usually the kids move up and then the parents follow a few years later. I've done a lot where I've helped the kids and then helped the parents find something after.
I noticed that too in Bradford. A lot happened with a lot of it. When we first moved out there, it was like, what are you guys doing out there? Right. And then slowly, some of our friends moved up there and then their families started to move up there. And then we decided to pick up and move back down just because of my wife and her work where she's located. Right. So ultimately, as I said, the price point cannot be beat if you're looking to get into the detached market. Mm-hmm. I just really, as I said, I feel bad for a lot of these younger individuals that are like, they're struggling. And we're talking with Stefano, which is behind the camera. We were talking about, Easter, we were sitting with family, a lot of the younger cousins, and they're fed up with Canada. They're just sitting there going, you know what? I make good money. Like, they're educated, good jobs. They're like, rent's insane.
Yeah.
If I didn't have help from my parents to buy their first place, they're just looking at their lifestyle saying, Canada's, not giving me the opportunities that our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents once had.
Yeah.
Right. And this sort of, for me, at least, I look at it and say, well, what do you think? Like, what is the consensus? What are your thoughts? Like, what are your conversations with clients? Like, how are they feeling about home ownership in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's tough. It's tough for new young families to try and get into the home ownership field, and unless they have help or they're savvy and they make a lot of money and they've been saving, it's very hard to get into it. So I've had a lot of clients as well think, oh, I can move, south to the States, or I can move. You got a lot of people moving to Mexico, Costa Rica. I'm sure you've heard. There's a lot of people just packing up and changing lifestyles. Now, a lot of people for work, they can't do it. And with their family, they don't want to leave. But it is tough out there. It definitely is tough. I'm finding a lot of,
I got a lot of clients that are moving out to Alberta.
Yeah.
I've been doing a couple of files interprovincial, and we're seeing those numbers tick up because they're saying, okay, I can liquidate here, go over there, be almost mortgage free, or pretty much no mortgage.
Yeah.
It's just literally changing that lifestyle. And I mean, coming from a European background, I think we've talked about this before in other episodes, but as Europeans, like, are you able to detach and say, hey, I'm going to go start my new life over here, like our grandparents did, and say, hey, I'm moving, from the south of Italy to Canada. Now I'm going to go from Ontario to Alberta, because literally I can't afford to have a house or to build the dream that I want to.
And that definitely has to bring us to the new carbon tax that has just been implemented April 1st, April Fools. So we're all a bunch of fools. 23%. What will this, boys, do with the dynamic building of our infrastructure for homes and new home buyers?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, everybody we talked about is struggling already. And now to top it on top of that, when you go to the gas station, you're paying a lot more for fuel. So, it just, it hurts the struggling Canadians out there that are trying to get into home ownership and trying to, get a better life for themselves. It's just another added cost at a time where people are struggling, so yeah, it wasn't the best of times.
So then why would they do this right now? And why would they do this right now?
You want the honest answer?
I want the In Touch Mortgage Solutions answer.
Okay, the political answer is I'm going to not answer the question because ultimately our viewers can determine who's responsible for the carbon tax. Yes, we have to be environmentally conscious, but ultimately we're giving up a lot of productivity, a lot of resources that Canada could be selling and could be making business opportunities from our natural resources. We're rich in Canada natural resources, and to not be able to put them to the market, be conscientious, green, and very compliant with the world. Ultimately, Canada has a small footprint in comparison to other countries. So we're just losing opportunities here. And then apparently, if by 2030 they want to increase it to like something like 61 or 67% the carbon tax. So if this guy, if this guy,
impossible.
If JT stays in power, then you're going to be seeing a lot more carbon tax. Like, this is on the agenda. This is what they want. They want to punish the average Canadian.
This must be a first. I've never heard this before. This increase of 60.
Yeah, up to 2030. By 2030, they want it to go up to over 60%. So basically, it's crazy. It's insane. And I think, party politics aside, I think, the Conservative Party has the right approach, to axe the tax. And I think especially right now with everything happening, inflation, cost of living, Canadians just feeling those pressures, the conversation around food banks. More and more Canadians are visiting food banks. We see it. Canadians are pulling back, and this is not good for the economy. Remember, like everybody knows, if you tax...
What happened there?
I don't know. It just fell on its own.
The mic got a little lazy.
Yeah, the mic.
Not a ghost, wasn't it?
I don't know. Maybe.
It's Justin Trudeau.
He's
pushing the mic away.
All right. How are you? Good?
So before we start back up, everyone's going to be moving in with their parents?
This is a really delicate question because I think the media has done a really good job at putting a lot of fear into Canadians' minds. There's no doubt in my mind that people are going to feel the payment shock. I mean, look, if you're going from sub 3% to over 5%, there's no doubt you're going to feel that. But I do believe it's going to be to a cohort of people that maybe purchased a home in 2020 to 2022 March, that 2-year window. A lot of Canadians that we're talking to, I mean, at least this is anecdotal from our book of business, is they have small mortgages. They've gotten 16 to 20% pay increases. Sure, nobody wants to pay more on their mortgage, but can they afford to do so? Yes, they can. That just means that they have to now change their spending patterns elsewhere. That means maybe little Timmy's not going to get that new pair of goalie pads, and maybe they're going to have to pull back on the Uber and the Skip. It's going to do a realignment of people's budgets. But
that's the problem. People have already aligned their lifestyle with a certain budget. Now having all this into the mix, like I've never seen the whole world go into a tizzy about interest rates in my entire life.
I've never seen an economy shut down over a pandemic in my life, or have read about it where you shut down. And this is all like an experiment.
What did things shut down in your neck of the woods as well, as much as it did in the GTA?
Yeah, they shut down everywhere there. They basically locked us down, so you couldn't do anything. Yeah.
This is the price we're paying right now. This is the ramifications from free money. Like this, we were calling this out in 2020. We're like, if you're going to bring interest rates to near zero record, you are creating inflation. This is inflation. It was right on the Bank of England's website. Like as soon as you start to quantitative easing comes into the play, you're introducing all this money. And that's what we're feeling right now is what the Bank of Canada is doing with quantitative tightening. Essentially, all they're doing is pulling all this money out of the system. Mm-hmm. So we're finding that right now, Canadians are struggling. Interest rates are high. Credit creation is down. How many people are applying for mortgages? We have banks with these provisions for credit losses. We saw a slight uptick in mortgage defaults, but we're still historically low. Like this is, if you do it on comparison to the 2008 great financial crisis, we're still below that.
So in regards to the properties that you have currently on the market, would you say that there's a lot more people gravitating towards the $1 million plus or under $1 million?
I would say under $1 million, especially in my area. Excuse me. People are coming up there to find a better bang for your buck. Mm-hmm. So the ones under $1 million, 7, 8, 9s, they're selling a lot quicker than the $1 million plus properties.
And the reason why is because people, if they have to, they're not going to move north to upsize.
Exactly. They're downsizing.
They're downsizing. So $1 million plus is not necessary.
Or right sizing.
Well, what's right sizing?
Well, the question is, as I said, looking at the bang for buck. If you're going to spend $1 million here in the GTA, or let's say in Toronto, Vaughan, Richmond Hill, what can $1 million get you just another 25 or 30 minutes north of the city? That's the question. And the other thing right now is, looking at those homes, as you mentioned, the commute, are they appraising? Are you finding issues with, like we're finding on our end? I mean, at least because we're dealing with certain clients, you're dealing with your clients on the buy-in transaction, buy-sell. Are you seeing issues pop up with clients that are having to walk away from these deals? Maybe they're not appraising. What are you seeing?
No, I haven't run into any, luckily, but it's the bidding wars that cause those issues, right? And so I haven't priced any low and then had bidding wars. I'm just pricing it what I think the home is worth, and that's it. When you have a house that's say worth $800,000 and you price it at $699 and ends up going for close to $1 million, that's when they don't appraise, right? Because people overpay, they get emotional, and then when the bank comes in and appraises it and says it's only worth $9 and you've paid $975, you got to come up with the difference, and a lot of people don't have that, right?
That's right.
So I think the bidding wars and the low prices cause a lot of issues with the financing when it comes down to it. And
are you finding that in your neck of the woods that's common? Is multiple offers, bidding wars very common?
They are starting to pop up now. And, I showed a house the other day and I just got notified there was 5 offers, and it was a bungalow, $799. It's probably going to go close to 9 or over. I'm not seeing it too much, but I'd say it's probably, 30-40% of the listings are bidding wars, and then 60-70% aren't.
And for the viewers that are out there, like I said, looking at this picture, saying, okay, he's listed at $799. You said might go for $9, but 9 is the market value. That's what that home would transact at, right?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to list it at $899.
Yes, I'm
going to list it lower so that I can get the more attention, more eyeballs on that listing. But I think right now we're finding a lot of I think the pendulum maybe slowed down a little bit. We were a little while ago, we were seeing homes, multiple offers, multiple, obviously these listing presentation offer nights.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, I see that's quieted down a little bit, at least from what we saw just a few short months ago. How do you find it in your area? Because I said a lot of our buyers, they're pushing that way. They're pushing further north.
Yeah.
They're saying, hey, Anth, I'm done. I want to get a detached home. My family's growing. Have you noticed?
What's north? What's your version of north?
Bradford, Innisfil. We could talk about New Tecumseh, Beaton.
So for me, correct now, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't north of Barrie? Isn't that considered north nowadays?
No, I think when you say north,
Really?
I would say north of Highway 9. A lot of people say north of 9 is north. So south
North,
is
okay.
King and Schaumburg, and that stuff's not really too north,
So
right?
Vaughan would be pretty much the end of the GTA.
No, well, I'd say Highway 9. So Highway 9 brings you into
Still the Golden Horseshoe, right?
Yeah.
That's still within the Golden Horseshoe, what they call the.
So is it fair to say that if you go to like the Alliston area, that's north?
that's north, I would say.
But nowadays, to go to Alliston, you need a good hour and change from pretty much any of the major cities. So would people really say, I don't know if I want to do that drive? I don't know if I want to go to Alliston where it's $1 million plus when I can add an extra 10 more minutes and go to Barrie or go to Innisfil.
Yeah, it just depends on the buyer, right? Depends on the buyer. Depends what they're looking for. I mean, Barrie is a pretty big. I call it the big little metropolitan city. It's like
They're
a
over
little
$1 million.
Toronto.
Now? They're over $1 million.
No,
aren't they?
Barrie's about 160, 170 now, but the plan for 2031 is going to be 250.
Oh no,
So-
I meant over $1 million per house.
Oh, I thought you meant population. I was like,
no.
not a million.
I think they're above 250.
No, they're going to be above 250, but they're not there yet.
But
there's tons of growth going on.
So
there.
about 10
Barrie's-
years ago, you can go to Barrie and pay 300,000 less than Toronto. Now it's equivalent.
Yes, they are.
No?
They are
You don't think?
getting close. Not quite equivalent, but it's getting close. Like there's a lot of growth going on.
I think after the pandemic, that opened up the door for a lot of people that do or have the ability we were talking about earlier about working from home. Like, I mean, this is the reality. It's some people can see the value in the commute. Some people say, okay, look, I can save 200,000, but now I'm giving up 45 minutes to an hour in my traffic. I have children. That's time taken away from them. That commute. It's all about what you value. This is when you're having that conversation, at least from our end. We're looking at the clients and saying, okay, here's what you're getting. Yes, you're getting all the bells and whistles over here, but where is your family located? Like, are you dropping your kids off at, mom and dad's for babysitting? Like, what's the situation? Tell us more. Like a financial planner, we're there to listen and say, hey, here's what our suggestion is, right? Like, yes, maybe that is a good move. Maybe, pull back, find something a little smaller. We've talked about it, the property ladder. Start small and work your way up the property, because ultimately time is money. So if you're able to commute or work from home, I have a lot of clients that only have to go to the office once a week.
Yeah.
So for once a week, you know what? That's not a bad deal. But if you got to go in 5 days a week, long weekends, traffic, 400, for example, or different arteries, like a lot of clients are saying, hey, I got to take 27 or this road here. If it's congested, if there's an accident, forget it. I'm stuck for God knows how long.
Yeah.
But if you can work and live in the community, 100%, that's the bedroom community. We found that very problematic for us because based on our lifestyle, but this comes down to lifestyle. But I do believe if someone's looking, we have a lot of clients who say, hey, look further north. Like, you want a detached home, this is your budget, something has to give. You can't find your $1 million home detached in Toronto. You're not going to find it, right? Yeah. So you have to change your parameters to go where your money will spend properly.
Definitely. It's a lifestyle choice too, right? I mean, it is country living up there. It's a lot different than the city.
And the people are friendlier, right?
They are. There's less anxiety, less stress. I've sat at a green light sometimes, and the light turns green and I'm just looking down at something and I probably could be a good 10 seconds. And I look up, the light's green, and behind me, the guy's just waiting there patiently. Whereas in Toronto, when I come down,
they're hammering it before
the
it goes
light,
green.
I don't even have time to look. I'm like, oh, it's green. I better go. The guy's honking on the horn. Like, okay, calm down. So it is definitely, we noticed, because I was born and raised in Brampton and then moved to Bolton for a year and then went up there. We just found a house and we bought it in Everett, 2010. And first drive we went up there, we're like, what are we doing? Where is it? We see cows in the fields, farm fields. And it took a few months to get used to it. And then my parents moved up a few years later and they absolutely love it. Nobody ever said, oh, I can't wait to move back down. I mean, you made the move, but again, it had to do with commute and this and that.
I'll give you the flip side. So my parents just recently acquired a property, a new construction development in Wasaga Beach. Mm-hmm. And to be 100% honest, it's beautiful out there. They're building out this whole community out there. And parents find it that it's the people are different. The air is different. yes, they are retired or semi-retired, but they enjoy the lifestyle. They enjoy the quietness, the calm. Like when they're like, my parents were like, "Oh, we're stuck in traffic." I'm like, "There's like 5 cars."
Yeah.
Like on your way to the superstore. Like what's
They got a casino now too.
They got the casino now too. You're
Yeah.
20 minutes from Collingwood.
Yeah.
And the price point, you can't really beat the price point. And a lot of people in the area, there are a lot of young families, as you said, the bedroom communities,
there's young families and a lot of retarees moving up there.
a lot of retirees. And I think that's going to bring, with the prices of homes, hopefully it brings new business opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
As Italians, we will say like, where's the bakery around here? Where can we get a good espresso, right?
Yeah.
And it could bring a lot of opportunity, restaurants, for those to fit their needs. Our previous area where we were in Kleinberg, we were waiting for a supermarket for the longest time. Now finally they have this plan to build one, but it's the infrastructure. This brings us to the question about how are we going to develop roads if we want to push the population to more affordable areas. Mm-hmm. We talk about affordable housing, affordability. How are we going to build that infrastructure? They need to get more arteries into these little communities so that people can say, hey, I can buy here. Because I have family in the US. The average commute is over an hour.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody lives in the major cities.
The average commute to what?
To work.
Over an hour?
Yeah, around 45 minutes to an hour.
And why? And do you think this is a bad thing?
No, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think we're so
used to the convenience of 10 minutes here and there
to live and work close to we like to live and work close to our area, where in the US, I don't think the US, the mindset is not the same. It's like they'll commute, they'll drive, they'll have no problem doing that to get home.
Well, what happened this morning? How long did it take you to get here for the podcast?
What was it? 49 minutes?
See, and that's pretty average, right? Wouldn't you say so? But you're absolutely right. When you're at your house, you're 10 minutes, 20 minutes from everything, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with you. Are you ready to drive, into Muskoka? You need an hour and a half and 2 hours.
No, we were weighing out the options during the pandemic to move to Wasago. My parents had bought over there. We had originally bought, and then, we had to shimmy things around for.
But it wouldn't be practical for you because a lot of your work is here.
Yes. The beauty about our industry, like yours, is we can do things remotely now. We can literally get on the Zoom call. We have technology. We have phones, email, no fax. I don't know who uses fax anymore. I mean, we still have.
You use fax?
No, our office has a fax number. Every time I look at it, I just think
it's antiquated, right?
Yeah.
But with technology, we're able to do work. I know a lot of people that packed up and moved to Florida to work
right here.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to conduct their business no different than they were here, right? Obviously, if you have a client that wants to meet face to face or belly to belly, yeah, you got to get to the office. But I mean, you can schedule that, right? You can say, okay, look, we're going to be in Vaughan this day. Block up your calendar. Say, hey, these are the appointments that I can make.
And, the very last thing, as we come down to the end of our podcast already, as we've hit 42 minutes, I want to know a little bit more about Gratitude Tribe. What is this Gratitude Tribe that you have, Mike?
Yeah, so as I explained a little bit before, it is just a concept. I have a Instagram page at gratitude.tribe for those that want to click on it. And, I have some videos on there that we've done with you, Stefano. Right. But it's just basically people that I meet, like Anth. I'm grateful that I, had the chance to come on this podcast. I brought you 10 of these. Keep a few for yourselves. Give some out to your listeners. I've done the same with you as well, Stefano. And again, I don't, I don't make nothing on them. I got them made and I give them out to people. I give them to my clients. I go to their house. Here's a few. And again, not everybody believes, in the gratitude thing. I mean, but there's a lot of people that are grateful and that do practice gratitude. And it's just a little reminder that you can keep on you in your pocket, in your purse, in your, bag. And just, when you're having a bad thought or a negative thought, you pull it out, you think of positive things in your life. It's just to control your mindset and put you in a grateful mood.
It's interesting how gratitude now is something that people don't have. Isn't that interesting? What happened?
Yeah, I mean,
how is that something people don't have?
It's not, not to say they don't have it, but it's just not something that you practice. Some people, when you say, oh yeah, I practice gratitude, they might think, oh, you're one of those, like it's just something that some people aren't into, right? But, for the most part, when you tend to be grateful and have a grateful mind and be grateful for everything, the universe just kind of works, things around you and you become getting abundance, and I just find it works for me.
And we are very grateful to have you on this podcast, my friend.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike,
you.
for coming.
Thank you
And
So,
so
Mike,
much.
where can they where can they find you online? You said you have your Instagram.
Yeah, so my Instagram for work is at Guerra Team on Instagram, and again, you can just type in Guerra Team Remax on Google, and you'll find me. And if anybody's looking up north, I'd be happy to help them for sure.
Awesome. And you can find us at our In Touch pages, obviously YouTube, Instagram, all social media at In Touch Mortgages. And thanks again, Mike, for coming. Really
Thank you for
appreciate the
having me.
conversation.
Yes.
And we're grateful that you were able to come today.
Thank you so
So
much.
thanks again. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.